Hi everyone, the guys at Movo got in contact with me and have sent me 3 of their lenses. So that gave me the idea of doing a beginner's guide to smartphone lenses, external lenses that you can buy for your phones to enhance your pictures, your video making and your filmmaking. So today I'm going to give you an in-depth look at the different lenses that you can buy if you're just starting out with smartphone filmmaking. I'm going to be showing you the Moondog Labs Anamorphic Lens. I'm going to be showing a cheap version of a macro lens, show you how that works, and also we're going through Movo's telephoto lens, their wide angle lens, and also their fisheye lens. It's a really interesting, fun video, and I can't wait to show you guys these different lenses, and help you decide which lenses you might need for your particular filmmaking or even photography. Let's get into it. So right now I'm talking to you with the 18mm Movo wide angle lens on. And as you can imagine, it gives you a much wider scope of your location, which is great for narrative storytelling. So if you want to do some nice establishing shots of your character walking from one place to another, it can really add a lot to your production value as well. And it takes the audience into the world and gives a much bigger scope of what the character's living in and the environment they're living in. It's also great for vlogging, where you want to take that audience on the journey with you and see that amazing wide scope of maybe a reveal of a sunset when you get to the top, that kind of thing. A wide angle lens is excellent for that, and it really does up the production value of your production without much effort at all. Just clipping it on and boom, you got a really nice shot. If you've got one of the newer phones, whether it's iPhone or Android, you may already have a wide angle lens, in which case you won't need one. But if you don't, this is a really great option to have. Now I'm going to show you more examples of shots where the lens is off the camera and the wide angle lens is on the camera. Make sure when I'm showing you the shots of off the camera that you're looking at the peripherals, so the edges, so you can see exactly how much more you see when you get the wide angle lens as well. It can be quite a difference. So it might be the difference between seeing some massive, amazing trees. It might be the difference between seeing a building that really stands out and adds to your production. It also might be the difference between your character looking like they've come from a long distance and a shorter distance. So it can really add to the story. So this is the first lens you will probably be looking at if you're starting out with smartphone filmmaking. Next up in your beginner's guide to smartphone film lenses, we're going to look at the fisheye lens. Now, what is a fisheye lens? Effectively, it is an ultra wide lens that distorts the size of your image. So it makes it look almost like a peephole. So if you're looking through the door, looking at that tiny little peephole, and you see the other person on the other side a bit distorted, a bit warped and circular, that's what the fisheye lens does. It's quite an exciting lens to use as well, so you can use it whether it's in a room to make everything look a bit distorted and a bit kind of trippy, whether it's someone, as I found out myself when I was playing around with the lens, someone who's feeling a bit sick, maybe you're doing like a point of view angle, someone like walking around feeling ill can make you feel a bit like the audience is feeling sick as well. It's used a lot in sports too, so skateboarding you might see it quite a lot in. So when they get that kind of elongated look to rails, that kind of stuff as well, to make it look more extreme what the skateboarders are doing. And I've used it as well in a film as well that I made a while ago, and it worked really well and gave you a really cool look as if it's like a CCTV camera looking out at the world as well. So it's a really interesting, unusual lens, and it's well worth looking into if it's something you want to get a bit more of a different vibe to the thing that you're filming. The next lens I want to talk to you about is the Anamorphic Lens. This is my personal favorite lens that I use. It is an amazing lens, and it essentially gives you a more cinematic feel to your footage. It letterboxes your footage, so with a 2:3:9:1 aspect ratio, it actually puts a letterboxing effect where you get a black bar above and below your image. And it gives you a much more landscape vibe to your shot as well. So again, similar for establishing shots with the wide, but this gives you a great look for all shots. Also with the anamorphic lens, the one I have, the Moondog Labs anamorphic lens, it has a 1.33 times zoom in the center of that image. So as well as giving you a much wider aspect ratio and a widescreen look like you'd get at the cinema, it also zooms in on the thing that's central to your footage. Even when you're going really close, you can still get really great, crisp, clear image. And even at the edges of your screen, you'll get a nice, crisp, clear image as well, without any distortion on the edges, unless it's a very cheap one. I've used this on a few films myself, such as Broken Zen. I also used it, I believe, on my first short film I made, which is not great, but it's Blue, my first 1-minute short film that I made. And it does add a certain amount of production value to your film, whatever you're filming. But also make sure you're using it with the right type of film. If it doesn't quite match the style of the film itself, it's going to be a bit jarring to the audience. So make sure if you're going for that cinematic, slick look, it also really fits in with the story that you're telling. Now, I know a lot of you will be thinking, well, why haven't you mentioned the flares? That's what I've been hearing so much about with the anamorphic lens, and that's why I'm talking to you about flares right now. Why would you want the flares in your image? Well, basically, it kind of makes your image look really cool. That's kind of it, really, because that slick, high production value feel to your shots. So whether you're filming something very basic or something very exciting, where there's lots of flashing lights, like a music video or something like that, or even if it's a vlog or a narrative film, it's going to make it look that little bit more high budget with a nice slick flare going across your screen. Now, what's really cool about it is you can do this outside in the daytime with sunlight, and you can do this at nighttime with lights like street lights, neon lights, anything that's got like a real pinpoint light bulb on it. you'll get flares. And in certain situations, you can get multiple flares as well. So if you want to get an anamorphic lens and use the flares and have a lot of fun with them, again, daytime, nighttime, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. So what about a telephoto lens? What does it do? Well, it actually serves a few different functions, which is what makes it such a unique lens. One of the main functions it does is to bring a subject much closer to the lens than it is in real life. So for example, depending on the focal length of your lens, if you've got something, say, 1 meter, 2 meters away, a telephoto lens can really bring that subject to the forefront and really close to the lens. And it creates a really nice sense of depth as well, which you can't normally get with phones, or not much anyway, because the sensor on a phone is so small compared to a normal cinema camera, where you'll get a really amazing depth of field. And in gaining that depth of field, you also create bokeh. The bokeh effect is essentially when you've got the subject that you want really close and in focus to the camera lens, and the background becomes a blur. So it creates that nice sense of depth, and it separates your foreground from your background. And that way it feels a bit more cinematic, a bit more professional, and it makes it feel like a bit more something that's big time. This is great not just for filmmaking, but also for photography, vlogging, pretty much anything. A telephoto lens is a really great lens to have in your kit bag, and let me show you some really great examples of why that is. So what about a macro lens? A macro lens is a fascinating external lens you can buy for your phone, Android or otherwise iPhone, and it really basically works like a microscope, so you can get really fine detail, get really centimeters close to a subject. Now, no phone has a macro lens inbuilt as far as I'm aware, so you have to buy that externally. The one I'm going to be using for these examples is just a cheap one off Amazon, so don't, think about the quality of this. It's still good, but it's not like a Moment macro lens, for example. Whether it's an insect, skin, something that's got really fine detail, you can get really, really close up and it magnifies like a microscope. Not to the same extent, but very, very close in a way. So you can use it for photography, narrative filmmaking, anything like that. And these examples really show you the detail that you can capture. You can see on the skin, you can even see the hair going into the skin, or growing out of the skin rather. It just looks fascinating, and it's really great to add something really, really unusual and different to your project, whatever it is. And you can also use it on plants, like I said, insects. You can find the little antennae on insects, the little details, and you can see basically everything in a different world, in a different way, and it feels like a very unworldly image to be looking at. So it's really useful to make your footage stand out. So I highly recommend you buy a macro lens for your filmmaking, if it's something that suits what you're making. It's certainly something that's on my wish list now to buy, and it's something that adds a lot to your footage. Now, there are a number of smartphone film companies that are making accessories like lenses. So the ones that I would look out for, definitely Moment are probably the biggest and most known smartphone filmmaking accessory company out there. They do a range of lenses, really great lenses. I don't actually have them, but I've seen loads of their review videos of them and that kind of stuff, and they look fantastic. Now, when it comes to anamorphic lenses, the one that I prefer the best out of Moment versus Moondog Labs is the Moondog Labs anamorphic lens, simply because the blue flare that you get is slightly more subtle than the one on Moment, so that's why I went for the Moondog Labs. Although you won't go far wrong getting the Moment at all, they make really quality ones too. So Moondog Labs is another company you definitely should be looking at, and they have fantastic anamorphic lenses for all types of phones and situations as well. Other companies to look at are ones like Siri, there's Ulanzi, they're quite big companies as well, so check those guys out. If you go on Amazon, they'll be the really, really cheap ones. So if you're just doing it for a bit of fun, then don't spend too much money. It's not really worth doing. But if you want to spend a bit more money, then yes, Siri, Ulanzi, and of course, Movo, check those guys out. I'll put a link for their website in the description below so you can check them out, as well as links to their Amazon pages as well to be buying their lenses. B-Script have a range of lenses as well. They have wide lenses. I know they've got also a depth of field adapter as well, a DOF adapter, which gets you amazing depth of field for your phones. There are slight issues, some people have them with a bit of distortion on the edges of the images, but overall they look really, really good. So that could be another company you might want to look at if you want to go for a big, big rig. But otherwise, those are the companies you want to check out if you're just getting smartphone filmmaking. Now, given that 3 of these lenses were sent to me by Movo, it'd be a bit weird if I didn't talk to you about what I thought about those lenses. Now, this is the telephoto lens that I showed you earlier on, and I have to say the build quality of Movo's lenses are outstanding, especially given the fact that they're $39.99 each. Now, I don't work for them. I've not been paid to give them a perfect review or anything like that, but I do really, really like these lenses. This has got a solid, heavy feel to it as well. The clip-on is one that works on any phone, so it doesn't matter what type of phone you've got, you can attach any of their lenses to any phone, which is really, really great, and it's very quick to do as well. If you're filming a project where maybe you're running out of battery, you've got a second device, it doesn't matter, you can just clip this one onto the other one. You don't need a phone case or anything like that, so it can be used anywhere at any time, which is very, very handy. One thing to note about their lenses is, like any lens really, but you do have to line them up really well to make sure that you get the perfect image, because sometimes I had a bit of sort of distortion on the edges, which I thought were the lenses, but once I adjusted the lens slightly, I ended up getting rid of that and having a nice clear picture. So if you do decide to buy these, or with any lens that you buy anyway, it is worth making sure that you got them lined up absolutely spot on so you get the best image out of these lenses. The only downside to these lenses, and I really feel pain to say this because I love these lenses, the only downside to them is you can't attach ND filters to them. I don't know why that is. Maybe you can if anyone knows a way of doing this. If Movo, you're watching this and there is a way, then comment down below and let me know. But I have not been able to figure out a way to put ND filter onto these. So you can use them outdoors, but you won't be able to use them for narrative filmmaking outdoors in sunny conditions, because you won't be able to keep your shutter speed down to match with your frames per second. And as a result, you won't get the motion blur that you want in a cinematic way, and also you won't be able to control your highlights to the extent that you want to with an ND filter. So all you cool cats and kittens, I hope you've enjoyed this beginner's guide to smartphone filmmaking lenses. I hope it's helped you. If it has, let me know in the comments down below. If you've had any experiences, good or bad, with different brands, let me and everyone else know down below as well, so that we can learn from each other and let this community grow. If you want to learn more about smartphone filmmaking in terms of the apps that you can use, I personally use Filmmaker Pro, which is what I'm using right now. If you want to know how to use that through all my tutorials, the playlist for that is right here. And check out whatever video my channel decides to recommend to you based on your needs on this side. So catch you on the next one. Take care. Enjoy smartphone filmmaking. Bye bye.